and welcome to the first ever live streaming of the HSBC UK National Men's Road Series. Well, the racing here got well underway earlier today, and we will be bringing you all the action live as it happens with 15 miles to go. We're in Bristol today, where the men will be tackling the fourth round of the National Series, and if you've missed any of it so far, here's everything you need to know. This year's HSBC UK National Road Series is made up of 10 races across the country. At each round there are 30 points up for grabs for the winner. The rider with the most points at the end of the series wins the crown, and it's as simple as that. Not only are they racing for the series, 6 teams are also competing for selection for the OVO Energy Tour of Britain. Points can be earned from most major domestic road and circuit races, including the first 9 races of this series, with the last chance of earning points being the 3-day race on the Isle of Man. Points are awarded based on a team's highest overall finisher, and with only 4 spots available, competition will be tough. Last time we were in Lancaster, where Madison Genesis triumphed.
Well, who's going to lead it out and who wants to lead it out? It's Bibby that's stalking. He's having a little look around, looking anxious. Tullett has done so much and he's sitting in 4th place. What about Shaw as well? A rider who's latterly been racing at World Tour level and into the final couple of 100 metres as they charge back into the park where it all began 100 miles previously. And now who's going to emerge through to get the win? It's Ian Bibby for Madison Genesis that gets his arm in the air and gets the victory in the Lancaster Grand Prix.
So after Bibby's win in Lancaster, that leaves the standings in the series looking like this. Steve Lampier tops the board with 60 points. Ian Bibby's not far behind with 58, and the previous series leader Matt Holmes has moved down to 3rd with 55 points. In the team standings, Canyon DHB have been dominant, winning 2 out of the first 3 races. Madison Genesis are in 2nd place and Team Wiggins in 3rd. And the Tour of Britain qualifications look like this. Canyon DHB, Madison Genesis, Team Wiggins and Swift Carbon all stand to gain a spot on the Tour of Britain, but with 8 qualification rounds left, there's still time for Vitus and Ribble to make their mark. Well, with it very much still all to play for, let's take a look now at today's route and what the riders will be taking on out on the road. Earlier today, I caught up with some of the riders. Let's hear from them now. What does it mean, firstly, to be in the leaders' jersey?
It's pretty cool, to be honest. Being level team we are, it's quite nice to have the leaders' jersey. It's not something you want to be defending now, so there's kind of no pressure to defend it as such, but it's good to be in it.
You've been in incredible form early season. How confident were you coming into this season that you'd have that form?
Well, thank you. I don't know really, because there's no pressure on me this year. So I'm just managing the team, running the team. There's no pressure on my own personal riding. I'm just getting on with it and training when I can train. And it's been nice to have that, flexibility with my own riding and to target races which I like and prefer to race well in.
Talking about races you like, what do you make of today's course?
I like it. It's going to be good. The last climb coming back into Bristol is where it's going to heartbreak a lot of people. That's going to be the decisive point. Up into that point of the race, I'm not sure how the other teams are going to play it, so we'll just sit back and see what happens.
A lot of people want to go for that jersey as well. How competitive will the fight be today in particular?
Especially with 2 Madison riders just behind me. I think it's like anyone in the top 8 could take this jersey today, so it's not something I'm going to defend. I'm not going to defend the jersey as such. I want to try and get a nice result in the race, and then hopefully that kind of takes care of itself. That's how I rode it in 2015 when I won the series, so I just kind of do that this year and just see how I go.
Firstly, you and Ian are in a great position in the overall standings, Ian taking the last round as well. How much confidence have you got as a team coming into this round?
A lot more now, obviously, now that we've won a round. Bibby's obviously going well. But yeah, we're not so focused on the National Series yet, but I mean, if we get closer to the end and we're still leading, then we'll really think about it.
And Tour of Britain qualification points are always in mind for you as a team as well, aren't they?
Yeah, unfortunately we have to still think about that as well as races in races, so yeah, I think we're doing all right in that as well. So hopefully we can win again and then get a bit closer to that.
How happy were you to come away with the win last round?
Yeah, I was pretty happy. A local race, so it was a good one to win.
I know we've got a lot of rounds to go, but how are you reflecting so far in this early season?
It was a bit of a slow start, but hopefully we've got going a bit last week, so try and keep on a bit of a roll now. And we've got good races coming up with like this should suit the team pretty well. And Rydale and Isle of Man, so there's a lot of races that'll suit us. So yeah, hopefully we're on a bit of a roll now.
Sherry, what can you tell us about today's course?
Oh, it's going to be a tasteful, I think. That first kicker up Dundry Hill, it could go right from the start. So guys need to be prepared and ready for action straight off. Maybe a bit of patience until the first KOM, but I think it's going to be an exciting race to say the least.
What do you make of today's course? It looks like a pretty grippy one.
Yeah, it could suit me. You know, we've got quite a few guys in the team who it could suit, and as usual, our strength is going to be that we've got the depth throughout the team to get someone to win. And obviously, Max's home race, so that'll give him a bit of extra momentum up the climbs, I think.
And how are the team feeling coming in this morning?
Yeah, really good. All got together last night and rode the last climb of the day, and yeah, morale's good, and we're looking forward to it.
Good luck today. Thank you.
Thanks.
To bring you up to speed on everything that's unfolded out on the road so far today, I'm delighted to hand you over to your commentators. Here's James McCallum, and he's joined in the commentary box by John Herity.
A massive thank you there, Becca, and yes, I am indeed here joined by John Herity, one of the UK's best established team managers, and I was quite lucky back in the day to have this man in the car behind me. John, today, very, very grippy course, a lot of climbing, almost 96 miles of undulation and pretty bad weather. What do you think is going to be happening today?
Well, it's a new course, so there's no history for teams of this level that have ridden it. It's been a domestic race for a number of years, but I think there's nothing to go off for these for these big teams. But as you say, the course is very, very difficult, and I think it'll be the strong teams that come to the fore. Yeah. The Madison Genesis and Canyon will be to the forefront, I think, of this race.
Absolutely, and we talk about the bigger teams, but obviously Stephen Lampier and St Pirien, they're putting up such a fantastic fight this year, and it's great to see Steve almost moved down a level to almost more of a domestic team rather than a professional team, and they're punching way above their weight this year.
He in particular is punching way above his weight. He's doing fantastic, and I think it's the fact that, as you say, he's stepped down a level. There's no pressure on him, and he's enjoying his bike racing, which means he's not looked at by the other teams yet. So he's been allowed a little bit of freedom as well, and he's making good use of that. And great to see him in the lead. Yeah,
and I think also part of that freedom is the fact that they're not in the hunt for the Tour of Britain selection, which obviously we know the big teams, Canyon, DHB, Rebel Pro Cycling, to name a few, with Madison Genesis, they're all at each other's throats pretty much over this next few rounds to qualify for that Tour of Britain. It's so important for a domestic team, isn't it?
It is. We saw in the sort of previews there the riders sort of being a little bit vague in their sort of in what's going to happen today. But I know as a manager, one of the most important things is that qualification process for the Tour of Britain. So I'm sure that the team meetings will have been had either last night or this morning. That's kind of the first item on the agenda, as to what the situation is with that, and that's the first thing that they're looking to try and do, which is a shame, I think, for the racing, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. So now time to get across to the coverage. We've got a little highlights package here, which we will keep you up to speed on what's been happening. It has been an absolutely furious race from the start here. As we see them rolling out currently in the earlier highlights, it's really nice and clear. No rain as yet, but I can tell you right now, when we move to our live pictures, it has absolutely been throwing it down today. And as the riders now roll out of Bristol, we can see there's an awful lot of nerves, I think, attached to this. Very, very big roads, and you see on the riders there on the outside having a slight issue with his bike. But now as we start to get an idea of what's actually going to happen today, John, is that, as we can see now, the conditions have changed. There's a lot of standing water. Pretty dangerous situation, that, isn't it? Yeah,
it can be. It's all about that sort of camaraderie in the peloton now, and making sure you're pointing those things out for your fellow riders. The last thing they want to see is like any silly crashes in the early part of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the official race start just there as the commissaire's car pulled away and pulled the flag in. I think the difficulty of this course as well, John, is that there's going to be so much cat and mouse involved, especially coming from the bigger teams marking each other, but also it is an absolutely brutal course. And as Stephen Lampier pointed out at the end of his interview, that kick in the tail at the end, that's really going to be where the race is potentially made.
I think what you'll see is a whittling down process. I think there'll be movement at the front, but there'll be a lot more movement at the back. I'm not sure how much of the we're going to see of that, but I think these early pitches, you'll see how big the group is. But as this even this package that we've got here now, I think as that carries on, you'll see that reduce considerably the size of that group. So I think people will be getting dropped from this more than actual breaks being established.
Yeah, I can see that. I can actually see the pattern right evolving here in the highlights we're looking at just now, where DHB Canyon will have a go. Madison Genesis will chase them, and it's pretty much they're almost cancelling each other out, which gives riders from the smaller teams and individual riders an opportunity to exploit that.
Absolutely, it's following the normal pattern for our national road series. To be honest, the big teams will attack, and other their counterparts will try and join them, and then you get this like stalemate and a lot of looking around, which can get a little bit frustrating. I think the nature of this course, though, lends itself for the stronger riders to come to the fore. As we see, I think this is Adam Kenway now attacking for Vitus, which is good to see.
Yeah, a former national hill climb champion. I think maybe potentially current hill climb champion. This is the kind of course that will sit Adam down to the absolute ground, and as you can see here,
straight away you see the same thing again, don't you, Jimmy? The big teams there all being then riders coming across. I think you're going to see James Shaw trying to get across here from Swift Carbon.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up James Shaw, because obviously he's came down to race again domestically in the UK from World Tour, and he's been showing over the last few weeks, Tour of Yorkshire, last week at Lancaster Grand Prix, just what kind of class he actually is, because he had the race in a stranglehold last week.
He's definitely a class act. There's no question. There's no way he should be at this level. He should be a lot higher up. He was very, very unfortunate to lose his contract, I think, or not secure another one. But yeah, very much a class act, and this sort of course where it's kind of the course that makes the selection as opposed to the attacking of the teams. He should. I'd be very surprised if he's not at the forefront of this race towards the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very good point you made there about the nature of the course. It's more about a whittling down from the rear rather than it being a big breakaway going from the front, because as you can see from the highlights we're looking at just now, there have been several splits throughout the day, and a lot of representation from the big teams, but also from the individuals and the private members of British Cycling. There's a prime example there. We've got Damien Clayton, who's had an absolutely outstanding last couple of weeks.
Yes,
in the
yeah, he was up there last weekend as well.
Yeah, from Andy Moore Auto Centre Racing. He's been a real strong rider, and you can see today he's been all over everything. He's not scared to take it on, which is really nice and refreshing to see, especially at this level when sometimes the big teams can be a little bit intimidating.
Absolutely, no, it's good to see these young guys, and I think the fact that Steve Lampier is leading the series, it gives gives these individuals also that almost that license to have a go themselves as well. It's not all about the big teams. In fact, they can cancel each other out, to be honest. The big teams, they should ride off the back of them, and here we see Marsan Biablocky, another extremely strong rider, and they'd be wise not to let him go today.
Yeah, and you can see just here now, Canyon DHB are on the front of it. On the left-hand side there in the white jersey and green shorts, very important to point out there, that's our National Series leader, Stephen Lampier from the St Perrion. But you can see that now, Canyon DHB are trying to put a stranglehold on this, as we've mentioned. You can see in the background just the devastation that's happening in the group, as it's just literally the back door has been left open in a sponge and it's just whittling down.
That's it. There's a guy at the back there punching tickets, certainly. But great to see Steve Lampier up there. Nice little touch with the white helmet, I think, from his sponsors there. Coordinate it with his leader's jersey. But as you say, Canyon here definitely trying to put a stranglehold in this race. James Shaw again at the front, Mark Christian there as well. The strong guys are coming to the front now, so it's as I said, it's the course that's making the selection here more than anything else.
Yeah, and it's been the same guys as last year. Last week it was Max Stedman as well as Dan Pearson, who've been really on the front foot. And again, we can see here in this footage, Damien Clayton all over it again, away with a DHB rider from Canyon as well as Madison Genesis there.
Well, I think if I was still a manager, I'd be looking at this guy. He's he was at the front last week as well, so he's been certainly at the first part of this race. He's been at the front. He's doing really well.
And of course here a new addition at the front of the group here is Madison Genesis rider John Dibben, who came back to British Cycling.
Yeah. Another rider that was without a contract and has only just signed for them. Halfway through, which is good, bit of a lifeline for him. And I was actually with Roger Hammond, the manager of Madison Genesis, last week, and asked him about that signing. And he just thought it was a rider that was really, really hungry and with a point to prove.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to be a bit of a culture shock when you come back down to the British domestic scene from World Tour. It's a big change. And I remember myself when Adam Blythe was my teammate. He came down from a BMC straight to a UK-based team, and it took him a good few races, if not 6 months of the racing season, to actually get his head around what was actually going on in the racing.
For sure. I mean, you've almost still got those delusions of grandeur of where you were. You can't sort of work out why certain things aren't happening the same way they used to. But once they adapt, their class will show for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. We've got a single rider off the front here, Latham from Vitus Pro Cycling. Really want to put the heart on here. Vitus Pro Cycling really have been active today, and the big thing we've got here right now is there's no other big teams chasing right now. It's quite interesting. Maybe there's been a bit of a stalemate at the back.
Well, we don't know if the riders are now looking at the selection process for the Tour of Britain is potentially coming into play here, so they're quite happy to see a Vitus rider go up the road because they're no threat to that. So I think that's potentially a reason for that.
Yeah, so obviously you're going to have Canyon DHB, Madison Genesis all over each other. That again opens up the door to riders like Damon Clayton, like some Marcin Biablocki. Now Marcin is a local rider here, local boy, and unbelievably strong, as you and I know, me personally, and you're from the team car. Well, no doubt. But the thing is with that is that this is the point in the season now when everyone is thinking about Tour of Britain selection and everything all that evolves around about that, when it does get a little bit more tactical and there's more opportunities now for other teams to exploit that.
Well, we saw in the previews there, Matt Holmes talking about having to think about things, happening during the race itself. It's complicated. They're trying to win the race. They're trying to win the series overall. They're trying to look at the team prize as well for the series overall. And on top of that, they've got the selection process for the Tour of Britain as well. So 4 things happening within the race itself. Quite complicated to sort of
race within a race within a race.
At the end of the day, bike riders, they just want to win bike races. They'd like it to make it as simple as possible, and us as managers are making it more and more complicated for them.
I was just going to ask that question. As a team manager, you're in the position of either Madison Genesis or Canyon DHB today. What would your tactics be?
My tactics, if there was any one of those teams, I'd be looking at the Tour of Britain selection process. That would be my first. That's the start point. Much to the, I wouldn't say the disgust to the riders, but it's disappointing for them to have to hear that. But for a team of their standing not to qualify for the Tour of Britain would be sort of would be disastrous. So it makes sense that has to be the starting point for them. Hopefully, as the season goes on, if those 2 teams do pull away, then they can look at things a little bit differently. But for the time being, that would definitely be my the start point for my team talk.
Yeah, I mean, Tour of Britain's such a massive race now, and the calibre of rider that comes to the Tour of Britain is unbelievable. It's almost like a preparation race now, and especially this year for the World Championships that have been in Yorkshire. As a home team, how important is that selection for the home teams and the home sponsors?
I think that it really depends on your sponsors. If your sponsors want to want to do that, then that's what you have to concentrate on. I was very, very clear with my sponsors before the start of the season to get clarity from them to say, what do you want? Is first and foremost that selection for the Tour of Britain? Then fine, that's what we have to do. If it's the BC Circuit Series, then okay, that's what we need to do, and we'd have to sign a different type of rider if that was the case. So it's very, very clear, or it certainly was in my case, to get that clarity before we actually signed on the dotted line with our sponsors, what they expected from us, and then for you to give them very clarity. We're not going to win the Tour of Britain. We're going to get in it, and sure, we're going to try and get as much sort of a TV time as possible and so on. But actually, we really want to win the race. We want to win something within that race as well, if possible. So, give me some more money and we'll attract a different type of rider. I'm kind of joking a little bit there, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember myself being there as part of a team management and being a rider. Is that it's a very, very different calibre of race, and you have to really realign kind of your goal within that, and that could be either going for a jersey or a stage win, or literally, as you're speaking just there about just trying to get airtime for your sponsor, because it's free advertisement. It could be 4 hours on the TV, non-stop, and having your name read out is so important for these sponsors, because it's homegrown sponsors. They're the ones putting all the money into the teams and building infrastructure, and it's good for them to get that back. So it's all about the presence on
It's
screen.
interesting. Over the year, I mean, I was fortunate to have a team for the best part of 10 years, and there was a period of time where that changed. Certainly in the first few years, it was all about A, getting into the race first of all, and then B, getting as much airtime as possible. But in the last couple of years, that changed a little bit. It was more about trying to go for one of the intermediate competitions and actually trying to win a stage as well. Certainly, 2 seasons ago when we had Brenton Jones in the team, we actually felt we could win a stage there. So we actually stopped getting in breakaways, and it was a bit, when you got to the end of the day, it was difficult to say, have we had a good day or a bad day? We didn't get in the breakaway, but actually we weren't trying to get in the breakaway today. We were trying to make sure we had riders available to help Brenton in the finale of the race, and whether or not he could pull off a stage win, sort of thing. So that was interesting how that changed and evolved, if you like, as the team got bigger and got a little bit better. So I mean, you'd have to ask the individual teams and their sponsors what they want from the Tour of Britain, to be honest. I think it changes. Certainly somebody like Roger Hammond, who's in charge of the Madison team, he would be, I think he secretly wants to win a stage, I'm sure. Having won stages himself, there, I'm sure that he would like to win, but Madison might want them to just have a little bit of airtime as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Madison, like our Olympic, they are one of, if not the biggest team in the UK right now. I mean, results-wise, Canyon DHB have been slightly ahead of them, obviously, in this season, but they'll, the season's still young. We've still got half of it to go, and I think a really positive Tour of Britain would be a massive, massive bonus to Madison Genesis in general. And I do also know a little bird told me that you may have potentially been in the team car with Roger last week.
I was in the team car with Roger last week, so it's the first time I've ever been in a team car, to my knowledge. I can't remember, for the past 30 years.
Not in the driving seat?
Yeah, with somebody else, and I can safely say there are no brakes on the left-hand side. Roger's an extremely good driver.
Put your foot through the floor.
No, it was interesting to see somebody else how they ran their team for a day. So that was very nice of him to ask me in the car with him, and I thoroughly enjoyed my day. It was the first time I've been back to a bike race this season, so it was good to see that nothing's changed. Bike riders are still bike riders.
Absolutely.
It was a good day out.
Cool. So let's talk a wee bit more about the course, obviously, before we go to our live pictures. 95 miles in old money. A heck of a lot of climbing, 2,000 metres, and it's not like it's much flat on the course at all today. It's very much up and down all day, and as we spoke about earlier, Steve Lampier mentioned that little kicker at the end. That's going to be so important when it comes, as we've seen from the highlights package you looked at already. It's more of a race, people going out the back, and the pace being pushed, but not quite a breakaway situation. There's been plenty of options, and people have thrown the hat in the ring, but nothing's actually stuck as yet.
Well, this type of course, it's interesting. You'd have to be an extremely, really, really strong rider to be able to ride flat out on the whole of the circuit and get away in a breakaway. You'd have to have a very, very strong committed group to do that. So I think the tendency is for riders not to do that, to be a little bit scared of the circuit, not least because they've not ridden it before. So I think the circuit, we haven't mentioned it already, that the circuit itself will make the selection. You'll have riders going out the back, and you won't see these vicious attacks, I don't think, to actually win the race until the finale, which Steve Lampier touched on in that in that run-in. We've got this climb of, I think it's Dantry Hill, I think, at the end there. So I think some action there would be, would be potentially, but it's still quite a long way from the finish there. So you'd have to be an extremely strong rider, or find yourself with a teammate in the group behind that could disrupt a chase behind. So that's a difficult.
Probably more of a small selections made from that, because I think there's roughly about 15 miles left after the top of the climb. So it's, as you say, it's still a long way to go, and with ever changing weather, the winds, it's pretty moderate breeze today. It's not super strong, but as you're saying, if you're on your own and you've still got a group behind you, you need to really have backed yourself today to hold that off.
I think if the wind and the rain, the factors are not that big a factor unless it's a headwind. If it is a headwind in the finale, that'd be difficult.
Yeah. We're just hearing now that there has been a breakaway happening, and we have got Latham and Bostock in there, so two of the big teams are represented.
That means Madison will have to make a chase by the sounds of it. But just going back to that, if the finale of the race is going into a headwind, then if you try and break away, then it's going to be difficult for an individual rider to ride into the finish on his own. It's a long way from that final climb to try and do that.
I suppose the simple way of explaining this to the viewers is it's all a numbers game. It's all about having as many numbers as you can over the top of that last climb in that selection.
That's one of the ways that we worked. We always wanted numbers in that final group, 2 or 3, which gave us options, either riders to commit to other riders, or basically that was it. We needed riders that were going to commit to others. One a team attacked and somebody could nullify it, and then we'd save somebody for the finale himself. So numbers game, easy to say it, a lot more difficult to do it though.
Yeah, it's a luxury when you've got 3 or 4 guys at the end of a selection like that as well, especially given the fact that the course is pretty brutal today, as well as the weather's not been that great. We've seen it being, I think one side of the hills it's torrential rain, and the other side of the hill it sounds like sunshine. A story my granny would have told me when I was a kid, but one side's sunshine and the other side's a foot deep in water, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get to our live pictures. But John, you were the lead of one of the biggest and most renowned teams in the UK. How has it been since that's all kind of stopped and disappeared, and what's been happening with yourself in the last few months?
I've missed it. There's no question that I've missed it. I mean, it's not like football where a manager is going to get sacked halfway through a season and you're going to come in to replace him or anything like that. So, we found out quite late in September that our sponsors weren't continuing. They didn't give us very much time to try and find somebody else. We did have an extremely big budget, so that made it even more difficult to try and put something together on this.
It's a big gap to fill, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was it's been tough. I won't say it's not. Certainly January. I mean, for the past 8 years, we'd have been in Australia. December the 26th, now I would have been off to Australia. So January, the first time I've had to spend, the winter in the UK for 8 years. So
and the reason I ask is because obviously I worked with you, and you were renowned as the stalwart of British cycling. You've been around since I was in nappies, so it's always interesting, and I felt like that as well when I've been at races this year, and just your presence not being there, it felt a bit weird not seeing you
it's nice,
dominating the pit as per usual.
It's good, time moves on. People, you get new people, fresh blood. It could be a good thing, I think. So.
Potentially. And here we are, live pictures, and there is that breakaway we were talking about just one moment ago.
Yep, Leithen and Bostock, and we still have quite a large group behind. But as we say, it's it's whittled down like we said. Interested now that this is going to Madison to chase this, and we can just about see in the background there two Madison riders at the forefront to try and close this one down.
Yeah, it's have they been caught on the back foot? Have they just not paid attention, or is this just kind of sneaked away? Because I think the last time we looked at, we had Latham on his own, and now obviously Bostock's come across to him.
I think that's a difficult one. If I was if I was Roger, I'd be upset about that. You certainly don't want a Canyon rider to go without one of your own riders following. This is perfect for Steve Lampier, though, I have to say. You can just, hopefully, I'd be very surprised if he isn't here. Certainly one of the St. Piran boys is there as well, so he can cruise in on this, and then on that final climb.
It's going to suit him down at the ground.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect
and we've just seen obviously one of Lampier's teammates there, Joe Evans, who's absolutely no slouch in that kind of finish as well. Joe's very handy in that kind of punchy little climb. But these two riders now will be kind of not really too sure they're going to fully commit. It looks like Bostock's kind of deciding not really too keen on this, but Latham's quite keen to press on.
Latham, I mean, at the end of the day, he's not a renowned climber, Chris. He's more suited to the sprint. So. It looks like he's committed to this breakaway, but I think they're going to come back.
Yeah, it's all looking like a bit of a stalemate here at the front. It'd be interesting to see if Bostock comes through after a little flick of the wrist.
I mean, this is still good though for Canyon. It means that they can sit in here, and it's Madison that are going to have to waste two of their riders at least in this finale, which is good for them.
Yeah, it's a perfect situation for them, isn't it? Because the more pennies that Madison spend now, there's less pennies they've got at the end for that big kick at the finish. So it's really, really important that they designate, as you say, you always want to get riders in the break, but now they have to designate X, Y, and Z riders to pull it back, and then they have to save. So who do you think they would be riding for today? Given that Bibby was going great last week.
Bibby's an enigma. You never know. It's like you could ask him 10 times how he's going and get 10 different answers.
Or 20.
So I mean, he's a supremely talented rider, and you'd want him in your team every time. But probably one of the most difficult riders I've ever had to work with, to be honest. But extremely talented.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when he is on, he is absolutely on.
Yeah, I mean, even he had one of his own teammates even talking about him at the start there. He was like saying that he was back on form again. Well, a week ago he wasn't on form, so I'm not quite sure what's happened this week.
Was that good morale? Plenty of biscuits in the cupboard or something? But just to let you know that obviously this has been streamed live. The issue we have is a combination of weather as well as the big massive hillside we're actually operating from. So we will lose live pictures every now and then, and you'll cut back to John and I, but we'll keep you updated with everything as we get it. But you can see these two still persevering.
Yeah, it's good.
And a big chase at the back though. It's a swarm of Madison Genesis jerseys at the front there.
There's three Madison guys, then followed by two by the Swift Carbon guys, who I thought rode really, really well last weekend. Actually, they committed to bringing a breakaway back and put everything in for James Shaw, which was turned out James Shaw podium. They got some more points towards their qualification process for the Tour of Britain, which was good. I thought they rode really, really well last week, Swift Carbon, in committing to chasing down those two breakaways in the early part of the race. But here, I think they're quite happy. Madison don't necessarily want to bring this back straight away. They're quite happy to leave it out there and just leave them at 200 metres. That's putting off any other attacks at the moment. So,
all hell will break loose if they don't. Yeah,
quite.
That's great that you talk about Swift Carbon Pro Racing, because Pete Williams, a guy who, again, similar to James Shaw, it's almost like Swift Carbon have actually picked up, quite a few big names there off the back of
two decent riders that found themselves at late notice without contracts. So I think it's good, and I think James Shaw's influence is no question last weekend that influenced the way that they rode, and Madison are doing a good job here.
Yeah, it's Mosey's. Yeah, Mosey's on the front there with Handley. He's putting a bit of a gap in his rider at the back there. It's all together again, as we can see from the graphic.
Bibby there, yeah.
Going to be interesting to see what happens off the back of this, because, as you say, it leaves the race wide open again. It's time to start racing again, and it looks like Mosey's decided to truck on with this.
Yep. Tom going for it.
Yeah, he's a class act, isn't he?
He's an extremely good rider, and he just doesn't have a sprint, unfortunately. That's his only. But he gives 100%, both either for to try and win the race himself, but also for his team. He's a really, really solid rider. Somebody you'd always want in your team. Very, very talented rider. Interesting, Vitus though, still making sure that they're omnipresent there.
Yeah, they've been very good today, actually. Every single move, we've seen the red jersey in there every single time, and it's now on the back foot. We've got Canyon DHB and I think it's Mark Christian from Wiggins look all chasing as well. Yeah. As we just jink through that little roundabout there, we can see it's a fairly technical course. As we can see, there's a little bit of standing water, very twisty, very up and down. The kind of course where if you get 20-30 seconds, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the problem they've got is this running is new to them. They may have done it on the way out, but I'm actually not sure they actually do exactly the same running on the way out as the way back in again.
Looks like we've got a bit of action at the front here. Is this like James Shaw?
Is it James Shaw or Ed Laverack? I think that might be that's having a little go there.
One of your former charges, John?
Yeah.
Looks like you taught him well.
I'm not 100% with him.
Looks like it could be.
But it's good to see. I mean, they're sort of not the biggest budget of the continental teams, but I think it's more important that they're racing correctly. For me personally,
that's Canyon DHB loser rider at the back. I think Tom Stewart's at the front doing a bit of damage here. As we can see, this group just whittling down. It's just ones and twos everywhere. As we see another Madison Genesis rider going at the back there. I think that's Eric Rousel, along with Mike Cumin, I think, there as well. So it's all basically going off now at the front. As we can see now, this group is really beginning to whittle down. Matt Holmes at the front putting on the pressure, followed by Dan Pearson there from Canyon DHB.
It's Canyon there, really, really strong. The Canyon rider, is that Max Edmund, is it?
No, it's Dan Pearson.
Dan Pearson, good climber. So the cream's coming to the top here now. As I said earlier, it's the course that's making the selection, and then you've got the ever consistent Ali Slater there, just behind Mark Christian, I think.
Yeah, you can see him just with the yellow shoes, can't you, at the back? But yeah, in third place, probably the most dangerous guy in terrain like this is James Shaw.
Yep.
From Swift Pro Carbon.
Good, but I mean, Bibby's still there as well.
Yeah.
I can still see him.
See Christian now for Wiggins and Cole starting to press on a little bit, trying to force a little selection here. He's doing the old I'll just roll off the front number, isn't he? And hope maybe someone doesn't notice me going.
I mean, that's another extremely talented rider that deserves probably to be at a higher level, to be honest, and was unfortunate that when his team folded and he found a berth at Wiggins, which they've given him a lifeline. It's I'd like to see him do a good ride today. Mark Christian is another rider that is capable of riding at a higher level for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned a handful of riders now, but it's great to actually have. Okay, for them personally, it's not great to move down a level, but it's great to have them back in the UK and getting stuck in and not being afraid to take that on the chin and just get back into bike racing, because ultimately this is where they all started, and it's great to see them getting stuck in. And guys like Mark, he's such a talent. He's been around for so long, and he's always been on the edge of something really, really great,
big,
but the luck has usually ran out, whether it's been injury or with teams unfortunately folding.
Yep, yeah, very much so. He's an extremely talented rider. Again, a rider without a sprint, and that's always a problem. Certainly, when we were selecting riders for our team, one of the things was can you sprint? Can you actually win a race? That was it's all right being really, really strong. I mean, the strongest guy in the break. But actually, we need somebody that can actually win the race as well.
Absolutely, and it looks like there's an attack on the right-hand side there from Madison Genesis with Matt Holmes. As you can see, this course, basically what you see in front of you is where it has been all day, up and down, up and down. Some really steep little grunty climbs on this course, and as you can see at the back, it's just starting again.
It's Will Harper, I think, at the back there. It's like...
And then surprisingly, Adam Kennaway's at the back as well in this group.
Well,
is he saving or is he...
well, he's been doing a lot of work, I think, in that breakaway. I think so. He's probably paying for his efforts a little bit.
Let's see what I read from Team PB Performance going out at the back there, unfortunately sliding at the back. That's Josh Housley.
Yeah.
Still a couple of riders in there from Ribble Pro Cycling. And yeah, it's definitely starting to break at the front. It looks like Pearson's going to cross there again with James Shaw. It's the same protagonist as last week again, John, isn't it? The only one who is not up there is Bibby from last week's podium.
Yeah, not sure if he's there or not.
Hard to make out from this, and we still see Mark Christian in there.
This is a tough climb though, isn't it? You can see this is again, it's not really no one's really attacking here. This is just the climb itself making the selection. So Madison may have missed out here, I think.
Yeah, it's looking pretty dicey at the front. It looks like at least Matt Holmes is on the front foot. He's put the power down, but maybe he's put down at the wrong time and basically dropping all his teammates.
Yeah.
It's looking tough, isn't it? Nope. Holmes is actually gone.
Holmes is gone.
Is that Bibby trying to come across at the back there? Definitely. Well, it's Holmes has had enough, hasn't he? He's off. James Shaw.
Well,
not often you put a bit of daylight between yourself and James Shaw on a climb like this.
Well, this will be interesting as we spoke about where the weather will come in. We can see how blustery it is there by the trees there. It's whether or not those two behind will commit to sort of bringing Matt back. But Matt, again, not a great sprinter. This is a good move by Matt but he needs to kind of almost solo to the finish now if he can.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a big ask that is, especially when you've got riders just on your tail there. It's actually quite a good selection. If he looks over his shoulder, he's got these three riders to take with him. There's a Vitus rider trying to come across at the back. I'm not too sure if that's Ali Slater, but you've got Dan Pearson in the white helmet and the blue jersey from Canyon DHB, and James Shaw again showing just what class he is, and you can just see by the gradient behind you
just how tough that climb was.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's some proper little steep sections to it, which is obviously it's the leg breakers, isn't it?
Yeah, I think James Shaw is using his World Tour level knowledge here. I think he's not committed to trying to get Matt Holmes back straight away. What he's trying to do is just measure his effort, not
panic.
Not going to the red too much, and then he'll make his effort once he gets over the top. But it's shaping up to be a classic sort of.
And you can just see the damage that's done in that last mile or so. Holmes just went to the front, put the hammer down, and suddenly the race is split to smithereens. It'll be interesting when we go back to the live pictures to see what's happened with how that's evolved. If he has got back together, if it's just the two riders or those four have managed to come together, which then means it's a stalemate again.
For me, it was still the course itself that was making the selection. Matt obviously was stronger. He made a little bit of attack, but I don't think James Shaw made. He didn't try and move to go straight away with him. I think what he's tried to do is measure his effort and Yeah, it's good. We just saw one of the CCCFL riders going out the back there as well. Last picture, that's a team I think that deserves a mention as well, along with Semper, and 2 teams that are punching way above their weight, and they're doing really, really well. And I think we should, we should look to them going forward. I think that's potentially the we see.
Yep, these two have got together. James Shaw, as you say, using his the wily old head on the young shoulders, got himself back across there to Matt Holmes as they dived in this really steep technical descent. As you can see, not a massive road, but fortunately it's dry.
Yep. These 2 strong guys now with the only team that can chase behind, I think, would be Canyon, and they're going to have to get themselves together after this climb. So there's going to be a period of time now where they're going to have to wait until they get the breath back, and then organise a chase behind. So
Holmes almost came a cropper there on that corner.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately that's typical Matt. Unfortunately, he's not.
The thing is with this course, it's 3 different loops all interlinked with each other. So although it is a circuit, some of these corners they may not have seen before, they're actually starting to roll out back out of town. As you can see, there's plenty of furniture there, lots of great help there from the marshals and the NEG, doing their fantastic job of giving these guys as safe a passage as we can possibly get. But again,
but for me, I mean, Matt should have been looking at the road, not just the road, the motorbike that's in front of him. To be honest, that's the one that's gonna, you very rarely see the motorbikes crash. So you're looking at the line the motorbike is taking. You should be concentrating on that. So they've got a good little lead here, but there is definitely a chase behind at the moment. But they're still recovering behind. They've obviously not been good enough to go with the leaders, so there's going to be a period of time where now they're trying to get their breath back and organise this chase behind. It's whether or not there's cooperation between the various teams now, Vitus and Canyon and Wiggins in particular. It's going to be up to them.
Yeah, we can just see at the back there we had Rory Townsend and Max Steadman, 2 riders. Rory Townsend for me is probably the danger man in that group, because he can climb and he's got an outstanding kick on him as well for that finish. So if any of the riders it's going to suit, apart from, I think we see Bibby in there as well, and there's now you go, Ali Slater's on the front trying to drag this back for Scott Thwaites, who we've not really spoken an awful lot about.
No, there's another rider that's dropped down a level this year and is very much a class act, and he's more than capable of winning this in a sprint. He's one of the fastest here, I would suggest. So, but we see Bibby in 3rd place there, marking, getting ready to if this break does come back, then he's ready and poised to break away if he needs to.
Yeah, he's a wily old fox, Bibby, isn't he? He's been around for an awful long time, isn't he? He's been along for a long time, but it's great to hear Thwaites really getting his shoulder into it now. He knows that he needs to pull them back now or it's all over. And Bibby as well, he's going to have to start tapping through. And Mark Christian, if these guys don't get themselves together, we see Dan Pearson there sliding through as well in the picture. He almost made it across, and you can see now, you can almost reach out and touch those guys. What we're talking 10-15 seconds as a maximum?
Absolutely, but what you're getting now is you're getting this, the hesitant, they're hesitating behind. Those 2 Vitus have made a really, really strong effort here to pull this back, and they've not managed so far. They've not even made that bigger inroads into it, so they start to get a little bit disheartened. I mean, Scott himself came through there, which if you were riding for Scott, then you wouldn't want them to do that. But he realised that there wasn't, Ali wasn't making any inroads, so he's obliged to come through, otherwise he's not going to contest the win.
Yeah, a little bit of chatting there between the riders. Just having a little question, what we're going to do here, boys? Are we going to keep riding here? And you can see the weather in the background. It looks like it's going to absolutely chuck it down any second here.
Now you're getting proper commitment now that people have started to recover, they're now going to sort of start riding together. But it looks like one of the Canyon DHP boys has got a mechanical there, I think.
Yeah, it looks like he pulled pretty quickly out the back of the group there, and I think he's came back with his teammate. It looks like we've now got 3 move. So now
absolutely
here we go. This is when it's going to start really, really kicking off now. These 3 riders need to get themselves together. I would say, my money, if I was team manager right now in the car, I'd be looking to protect Rory.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got to ride, but the bottom line is they've got to bring him back.
Yeah.
They've got to bring those 2 back now, so they need to commit to that. And at the moment, there's 3 of them there, and that's actually going to, the other guys are not going to like that. 3 guys there from one team that are not pulling at all. Wrong. They're going to certainly Vitus are going to call a halt on this, and even Wiggins aren't going through there. They're now sat up as well.
Yeah, you can see the tactics now coming in as we're slowly making our way back down into the city of Bristol here. There's obviously Mark Christian's the only rider in there from Wiggins Lacole. He's going to use his brains here. He's going to say, well, guys, you've got the numbers. I'm not the guy going to be helping you. I'll just get me close as we can to this finish, and I'll see what I can get for myself, because 2 riders from Vitus, 3 riders from Canyon DHB.
Yep.
Why
Bibby.
would you? Yep, and Bibby obviously as well.
Yeah. These guys got to commit now. There's no point in sort of trying to outdo each other at the moment. They need to fully commit and get to the finish. Certainly for Swift Carbon Pro, for James Shaw, should I say, he's got no teammate back here. He's obliged to go full out for the win here for himself.
Absolutely, you can just see the commitment there in the body language of Scott Thwaites. He is not holding a single thing back here. But it's interesting to see now, we've kit this again, the ever-changing well after today.
Chase again, yeah.
Yep. What they need to do now, as you've said, John, they need to bring these guys back, they need to reset and then start the race all over again.
It's 5 against 2, simple as that. Those are the numbers. You've got 2 riders here that commit completely.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is as well, there's some real strong guys in that second group just trying to get across this, and if they get there, it's going to be an absolutely exciting finish, because you've got such a different demographic of rider in it. We've got a slight issue here with one rider going one way and one going the other way, as James Shaw took a bit of a longer loop round there, but Matt Holmes was all over the racing line there.
Well, made a mistake earlier on, and he's done it right, but certainly the chase group's done it properly here, and they've taken the shortest route, so they'll gain a little bit of time on them there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still a little bit disjointed by this chase group here.
Yeah, you can just see them just dangling there, and any other day you just think, just hold and try and fire someone across that gap, but these 2 guys are putting in some fight.
Yep, I don't think anyone's strong enough to get across that gap now. It won't be a single rider. It's got to be a commitment from those 5 riders behind to try and get back up to these 2. And these guys, they're fully committed now. There's no point in them trying to, outdo each other. They need to fully commit, otherwise, because if they go back to that group, their day's over.
Absolutely, no time for finessing.
No.
They need to be committed, because in all honesty, this is the only chance these 2 riders have got to win in today.
I think so.
If it goes back to that group behind in a sprint finish, they've got 0 chance. So this is why you've got Ali Slater on the front, really, really drilling it, wanting to bring them back to get their man on the top of the podium, Scott Thwaites.
If there's any guy you want on the front of a chase group, it's Ali Slater. This guy he's just unbelievably strong. If it does come back together, I think you can probably thank Ali Slater for this. He's like one of the best riders for this. And then we saw a little thing there, Bibby there, starting to go through. That's like a classic tactic, making it more difficult for the Canyon riders. They now have got to go past a rider that's not actually going to commit to the chase.
And saying that though, John, looking at it, he's seen the 2 riders at front and messing around, and Bibby's thinking, well, the minute they get caught, I'm going to be going straight over the top of this. So we need to keep an eye on Bibby for a
smart
big counter-attack.
This is a flat road. We don't know about the wind direction at the moment. It's extremely windy. So Ian won't make a move unless it's worth it. He certainly won't do it just for the sake of doing it.
And as you can see there, Slater is now is that Adam
Kent?
Slater's just sliding off the
slide off
back.
His commitment to it. Scott now like being the one that's going to looks like they're going to close it down.
Yeah, it can't be any more than 5 seconds. It's going to be an absolutely thrilling finish, this is, John. So who's your money on? What are you thinking?
I think Rory Townsend, as you say, is definitely the fastest there on paper. Only because I think Scott Thwaites is probably as fast. Although, as you see, he's having to, he's the one that's having to do the work.
Slater's still hanging in there though. Maybe he's going to take the advantage of this little lull. If Thwaites would just look over his shoulder, he sees there, and Ali's going to be a massive ally for that last kilometre, for that lead-in.
Yeah. If he can get back in, that would be great. Matt Holmes definitely looks to be the strongest of these 2 as well.
Yeah. So the race section right now, we've got James Shaw, Swift Carbon Racing, as well as Matt Holmes from Madison Genesis here, just dangling off the front. These 2 have been away for the best part of the last 5 to 6 miles after the final climb, as we drop into the finishing loop to go head back home into Bristol. On the front though, young Dan Pearson from Canyon DHB, as you say, John, I think they are definitely riding for Townsend, so it looks like everyone's going to be stacking up behind him.
Absolutely. Well, for those 3 guys, they've now got to shut this down now. Certainly it was Vitus that made most of that chase, to be honest. Ali Slater in particular. But now Matt Holmes needs to look over his shoulder.
The other thing is as well, John, as we're going back into a city centre, wet roads,
lots
lovely. Of traffic, lots of buses, lots of things like that. So this is a chance potentially for an opportunist to take a wee move.
Yep, it is indeed.
And I think the opportunist could be Mark Christian.
Yeah, we've forgotten about him a little bit, haven't we? He's been very, very quiet. I'd be very surprised if Mark doesn't have a go, for sure.
He's an absolute racer.
Bibby will be wary of that, I reckon. A little bit of lull here, and we might see Ali Slater get back on, which would be perfect for Scott Thwaites.
You can just see him in the background there, can't you? It's going to be tough for him to get back now at this point, because now we've got Holmes has realised that that's his chance over, and he's got to keep the pace up now for Bibby to hold this group together.
This is just a race within the race.
Here we go, John. Here's what we said. Christian up the right hand side there. No one give anyone any, but right away.
Yeah, they should have sent them a postcard.
Yeah, he did make it a little bit obvious.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unless
they heard us here from the commentating box shouting it. But there you go. A little lull and he's gone again.
Right, what we're finding here now, I think Matt Holmes is definitely now committed to Ian Bibby. We know Steve Lampier is not in this move, so it's a chance for Bibby to regain the lead in the overall.
Here we go, 300 metres to go, John. Christian still on the front. Holmes doing a great job of pulling this group together. At the back we can see Bibby on the left hand side. Bibby goes really early as he come into this final last section here. 200 metres to go. As we switch back to the front camera, 50 metres to go. It looks like Townsend's in the front here. Can Townsend hold on to this for Canyon DHB? And there you go. Rory Townsend, Canyon DHB, just ahead of Scott Thwaites from Vitus Pro Cycling. It looks like Ian Bibby from Madison Genesis may have sneaked into the podium position there.
Good call, Jimmy. You said it. Rory Townsend. Very, very good ride by them. Very, very good ride. They numbers. We spoke about it earlier in our chat.
Absolutely, and I think we can
3 in the final there.
Just see the remaining riders coming into view here.
It's a sprint now.
Yep, these guys are still in for top 10, and this is still points for the Tour of Britain selection as well, so we can't forget about that.
Sprint.
Still no sign of Steve Lampier though from St Piran yet.
No, we haven't. No, we don't know if something's happened out on the course there, but Rory Townsend, really great finish from him there. That's his second win of the series as well.
Yeah, he won Klondike the first round, wasn't he? He beat Thwaites, who I was incredibly surprised at that, because you expect Scott coming from World Tour level and being an absolute puncher of a sprinter to walk that, but Rory was incredibly strong as he was today.
Fast, and he's come on this last season in particular. I think he's gained a little bit of confidence, and Tim Elverson and his team have done a great job with him.
And here we go
again.
There's that move, as you can see right away. Matt Holmes over his right hand shoulder, you could see it coming, but it was almost like a little bit of a fake from Mark Christian. But you can see at the back the boys who are doing the real sprints coming here. As you can see Townsend there behind the rider in the white jersey with the white helmet, all in blue, just waiting to open up that door, slide through the inside and take the top step.
So Bibby went just at the right time then, I think
it was first man out of that left-hander that kind of, because it's a bit of a jinky kind of chicaney finish line there, so it's the person who took the straightest line basically got the win, but it's a interesting finish. But Bibby, we said last week we weren't too sure about his form. He was going great, and it's also great to see Scott Thwaites back up there again. Yeah. Huge fan of Scott. He's always been an absolutely tenacious rider, and it's great to see him back in the UK and mixing it back up. But you can't take it away from Rory Townsend, can you?
No, and in Canyon in particular, they rode very, very well. In that finale in particular, I particularly like the way that one of their riders dropped back to bring their third rider back up again to make sure they got the 3 riders there in the finale. And we spoke about the 2 guys that are away, James Shaw and Matt Holmes. They were fully committed to it, but the chase behind was also a really, really good one with Canyon in particular. Playing it cagey, to be honest. It was Vitus that did most of the chasing, but in the finale, all Canyon.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that again we go back to the moment when Dan Pearson slid back for Max Stedman. That's for me could potentially have just been the difference that helped Rory Townsend get that, because we did see towards the last kilometre it started splitting up a little bit, and Dan Pearson did slide off the front, and I was thinking, are they trying to do a little bit of blocking to give Dan a chance to get up there? But yeah, I think the eggs were all in the one basket with Rory Townsend, to be honest with you.
Which is what we said, to be honest. It's good to see. I mean, why wouldn't you commit to him? He's already won one round of the HSBC National Road Series. I think that's to win 2, absolutely fantastic. We're going to see the sprint again.
Yeah, there we go. A big effort by Mark. It was just so unfortunate that Matt looked over his shoulder at the right time. Yeah,
but it was a good move. He then he then hesitated, and they all thought he was he faked it, and then off he went again, and basically ended up leading it out for everybody else. I think that probably didn't help Ian Bibby. Ian Bibby then went and got slightly.
Yeah, I think he got a little bit boxed out on the right-hand side by his teammate, and potentially between that and the Escort motorbike there. But that's racing, John. You know, these things happen. So. You have to, and Bibby, of all the riders, he's a man with eyes in the back of his head, so he's pretty good in situations like that. But no, I have to say, again, Canyon DHB today have showed just how good a unit they are, and we heard that Tom Stewart speaking at the top of the show about how much strength and depth they've got. They've not got one rider who's particularly a level higher than the other, but they're all operating at such a big level. Absolutely. The biggest issue for me is trying to identify them on screen, because they all look absolutely exactly the same. Look like clones of Andy Tennant, pretty much.
Well, they're all committed to each other as well. I think that's a key thing. What Tim Elverson has done there is put a team together. Who, incidentally, they're actually riding another series in Holland at the moment as well. This weekend. So they're committed to 2 events, on the same weekend. So as we see pictures here at the finish of
Townsend trying to gather himself as he gets asked to get ready to go to the podium. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're not going to say it's a B team they brought here today, because they've got so much strength and depth. But yeah, running a dual program, as you'll know, having done that for years, it's always a bit of a juggling match and trying to get the balance right in your teams, because this is equally as important as a European
I would say this
race.
is just as important for them, if not. It's probably more so. I mean, but again, it goes back to what we spoke about, the commitment to your sponsors. Yep. What do your sponsors want, for example? So it's a very, very, very difficult juggling act. You also need to satisfy the riders as well. They certainly want to ride certain races, and maybe Max Stedman today, for example, wanted to ride in Holland, but actually it's his local race here, so he was obliged to ride that one.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, it was a circuit that suited Max, and he's no question that he's contributed to the success of the team, which they've all going to buy into, and will enjoy the rewards of that.
Absolutely. It's also nice to see Max back at the front of a bike race, because he had a real massive goal was the Tour of Yorkshire, and unfortunately he caught quite ill, as a few members of the team did all on that weekend, and unfortunately it didn't happen for him. But it's great to see him back at the front of a bike race. But we can now go straight back across to our lovely assistant at the race, Becca Charlton, for a live interview with her race winner.
And Rory Townsend, today's winner, joins me now. Firstly, how was it out there? Because there was a lot of rain here, of course.
In the end, the weather wasn't actually too bad. We had patchy spells, but that certainly wasn't the hardest thing we had to deal with today. The climbs were really tough, longer than we maybe used to from this style of racing, and we tried to make them pay, but it would sort of split up and then come back together, and that was kind of the story of the race. And in the end, it came down to that last climb, and Matt Holmes clipped away, and James went with him, and obviously it's a really, really strong pair. And I just about managed to crawl over the top of it and hang on to Bibby, and then I was with Dan. I just said to Dan, I was like, just please bring it back, mate, please bring it back. And then turn around and see Max coming across, and I was like, oh, could it be? And then Max there, and I was like, mate, I just need it back. And then it pretty much all came back together with 400 metres to go. And I really had nothing left. It was just like an absolute slog to the line. So really, really happy.
It must mean even more when it's so hard fought to the finish line like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best all-round race we've had in the series so far. It was brilliant, like really positive racing by everyone. I think it helped that actually a lot of guys in the field knew the circuit to some extent, because a lot of us had done it as juniors. But it really brought out the best of sort of racing, like really aggressive, just on all day.
You guys just, as a team, collectively, so many options, so much strength coming into this season. Yeah,
it's been really good. We had quite an in-depth plan at the start of the race, which Tim laid out for us, and it kind of obviously gets complicated en route, as it always does. But the general consensus was if Tom, Stuart, or I could get to the line, then it'd be a sprint for us. And if that didn't look like it was happening, it was going to be Max and Dan to take it on that final climb. So, but like I said, I'm just so thankful I managed to hold on over that last climb.
Rory, thank you. Congratulations. We'll let you dry off for that podium. Thanks.
Cheers.
Interesting words there from Rory, basically saying that he would never have done that without his teammates. So it's well worth the fact that Pearson went back to bring back Stedman.
Absolutely, no, it was it was very clear to us here in the studio that what they were doing. excellent tactics by them, and they deserve that victory. It was well thought out. He's basically confirmed what we suggested, that it was the circuit was like the one that made most of the selections, with many breakaways getting away but none sticking, and it was only that one in the finale there of James and Matt Holmes, and they, as you said, it was a little bit of panic there in his voice, so you could hear it, but also very, very thankful that his teammates could bring it back together. And it's great to see that a guy sort of complimenting his teammates like that after he's won so well.
Yeah, because you don't win it on your own. It's not even the guys you're riding with the numbers on your back. It's the whole team. It's the person that's making the water bottles and the person who's pumping up the tyres and driving the van around the UK, which is thankless tasks, but they're all very, very important, integral parts of that team. But not only that consolidates Canyon DHB's place at the top of the table.
It does, in terms of the overall for the HSBC series, but also for their selection process for the Tour of Britain as well. They just pushed themselves a little bit further away again from Madison. But I think both those teams, I don't think they'll have a problem at the end of the season actually qualifying. But in terms of like everything that they're doing, you heard him say they had an in-depth team talk, which is you're obliged to do them now with all these different classifications within the event. I'm personally not a great fan of it, but you've that's what you're obliged to do.
Perfect. And not only that, this now makes the battle for third and fourth for that selection. Meanwhile, obviously we've seen, I want to really have a little moment to talk about James Shaw again. Another fantastic ride, but he just needs a little bit more support in that finale to get the win.
Yeah, a little bit more smart in the finale, and I think James did exactly what he needed to do. He knew that he was on his own there. I don't think that the move that he made was the right move for him and for Swift Carbon. That was the right move. Just didn't work out this time.
Well, thank you very much, John. And now we will throw back across to Becca. Thank you very much for having us, and Becca, over to you.
Well, a brilliant win for Rory Townsend and a very wet morning in Bristol. Thanks for joining us throughout today's first live feed of the HSBC UK National Men's Road Series, but don't go anywhere. Go and grab a quick cup of tea, put the kettle on, and join us once again a little bit later, because we have all the action from the first round of the brand new HSBC UK National Women's Circuit Series. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.